In this video, I'm going to teach you as a professional athlete how to overcome the fear of failure, the fear of what if something bad happens, what if I don't succeed, the fear of failure that keeps you stuck. Majority of athletes have a fear of failure unless they are aware of this and they've already done the work. A lot of it is subconscious, meaning you're not aware of it. Nonetheless, even the failures or the fear of failures that you are aware of, they stop you. They block you from performing at your best. So if you've ever wondered, like, where does this fear of failure really come from? Or like, no matter how hard you try to visualize your success, maybe you do like visualization meditations or visualization boards, or you just like, go over the same thing and performing that really well in your own head. Like, no matter all of those things, there's just something that doesn't click and there's just something that doesn't work. It is you getting in your own way because of your fears of failing. Now, the interesting thing here is that childhood trauma, the law of attraction, and the fear of failure are all interconnected. It's really important that we understand these factors. The childhood trauma, particularly within child athletes, the law of attraction, and just the simple sense of fear of failure, because when these are understood, it creates awareness, which is one step forwards in terms of overcoming the fear of failing. Nonetheless, though, you don't need to stay stuck in the fear of failure, so I can guarantee you we are going to share with you some very helpful, actionable tips to overcome this fear of failure, and you'll probably have quite a few realizations throughout this video anyway. Let's start off with the definition. What is the fear of failure? The fear of failure is literally just referring to the anxiety or hesitation to take action due to the anticipation of something not succeeding, something not going well, something not going in your favor. If you're unsure whether you actually have fears of failures, as I said, some of them can be subconscious, as in you're not actually aware of them, which is why it really blocks athletes. Like, if you're not aware of it, how can you overcome it? How can you overcome something that you're not aware of, okay? So part of this is to create the awareness, all right? So some common signs that you can look out for if you're like, maybe I have fears of failure. Avoidance of challenges or risky opportunities, the procrastination or self-sabotage, or the pure anxiety before important events or competitions. I know for myself as an athlete, the self-sabotage one was very common for me. I'd get in my own way like all the time, and the anxiety was always there, and it was like next level, particularly when I had to compete or perform, or like we also had these, like, what do you call them? I forgot. Kind of like auditions to get into the next level of ballet schools, and there'd be so much anxiety, and that was the fear of failing, the fear of not doing my best and therefore failing and not getting into the next level, right? Unfortunately, though, it does impact athletes in a very negative way. It really gets you in your way, so much so that it blocks you from unlocking your full potential. Like, you actually have so much more potential as an athlete than you're even aware of. More potential than your coaches can even see, like, I guarantee you. So to break this down really easily for you, as athletes, if you have the fear of failure, and there's lots of different fears of failures we can have as well, which we'll get into in a moment. If you have any fears of failures, it impacts you in three common ways. One, it impedes on your actual performance and your actual growth as an athlete, how much you excel as an athlete in that aspect. Secondly, it leads to missed opportunities and stagnation, meaning you plateau, you stop improving no matter how much you try, or you miss out on opportunities that really would have meant a lot to you simply by you getting in your own way. Or thirdly, it affects your emotional well-being and confidence. And I don't really like the word confidence. I prefer to use the word self-esteem. Confidence can be masked, right? I could talk to you guys right now and put on a mask or put on a fake act, whereas self-esteem is something that is ingrained into you. It's a true sense of confidence, if you want to put it that way. As I mentioned before, and this is going to be really interesting because it's not talked about within the athletic world much at all, which is that there is a link. There is a very substantial link between the fear of failure and inner child wounds. Now, what I mean by child wounds, it sounds like this really dramatic, terrible thing. In some cases, the wounds really can be wounds, okay? Or they could just be scars or scratches, okay? You as an athlete, or maybe as a kid, maybe you got injured, maybe, maybe you had some surgeries or whatever. There's different extents of injuries, right? There's a scratch, there's a scab, there's a stabbing, there's a twisted ankle, there's a broken ankle, okay? So there's different extremities to all of these things. Inner child wounds can still affect you, okay? If they're deep wounds, they're gonna affect you a lot. If they're scars, they won't affect you as much, but they're still affecting you in some way and impacting your ability to perform at your best. So what these wounds are actually just emotional scars, okay? Often they come from neglect or criticism, or at a deeper level, abandonment as well. And these emotional scars, they really do often result in deep-seated beliefs of unworthiness or inadequacy, and these deep feelings of really deep sense of like, I am not worthy or I am not adequate, it just makes the inner critic that you will have as an athlete naturally so much more heightened and elevated. And whilst we think being our inner worst critic as an athlete is like the best thing because you're always gonna find areas to improve, okay, it can also really sabotage you in a huge way, and it is a form of self-sabotage. The fear of failure is also, in a way, a sense of sabotaging yourself, most likely unawareingly, especially if you're not aware of the failures or the fear of failures that you have. So the connection that I want you guys to understand here is that these childhood wounds, they influence your adult behavior and create an unconscious fear of failure that holds you back, okay? That holds you back from succeeding as an adult, as an athlete, unawareingly, okay? Our subconscious part of our brain is deep, okay, inside of our brain. It's not the outskirts of our brain. And it holds on to beliefs, thoughts, emotions, scenarios, situations really, really, really well. And therefore, because it's been there for such a long time, it's kind of like a memory bank, right? Or a USD card. And unless you put the USD card in the computer, you're not gonna see all of the stuff that's in the USD card or the memory bank, okay? And that's what we need to do in order to create the awareness and start to heal these wounds and scars so that you can overcome the fear of failure and start to attract naturally the success that you want and, unlock your full potential. The law of attraction is a very interesting concept. As much as it can help you, let's just attract all the things that we want, it can also block you. So as much as something can serve you, it can also serve you in a negative way. Like it's a disservice to you if your inner child wounds are there around failure, and therefore you are going to attract the things that you don't want, okay? In another video, I talked about abundance, but basically as humans, we are abundant in everything and anything, okay? Abundance, for people who don't know about abundance, they think it's this positive thing. Oh, all of the abundance in the world, it's like all this great stuff. But the thing is, no, you could also be abundant in all of the bad things as well, okay? And it's our beliefs primarily, and also the thoughts that we think about that attract either negative things, for example, failing, or positive things, for example, succeeding, right? And unless we are aware of the beliefs and thoughts that we have around failing versus succeeding, then regardless of how much visualization you do, you're still gonna run into that block, right? And I know a lot of athletes do because I've been in the world for a very long time. But just make the statement here, what is the law of attraction? The law of attraction suggests that we attract into our lives what we focus on, okay? What we focus on. Now, what we focus on could be positive, but also what we focus on could be negative. And if you're constantly focused on what if something goes wrong? What if I sprain my ankle? What if I, mess up? What if, because you're concentrating on that, then you are going to accumulate that and attract that, okay? Whereas if you concentrate on the opposite kind of thing, whereas what if I go out there and do my best? What if I go out there and do the best performance of my life? There's a huge shift there. But it's not really going to work, even if you think all the positive things in the world, if you still have those inner childhood wounds, because you don't truly believe that you can go out there and do your best. You don't truly believe that you can go out there and succeed, especially if you've been in the mindset of the fear of failing for a very long time, which is why it's really important that we create the awareness of the inner child wounds that you have around failing, dive deeper into them, and shift them into ones that can support you. So on that topic, how the fear of failure blocks the law of attraction, okay? The fear that you have, it essentially generates negative thoughts and emotions which send out a very low frequency energy. Everything is energy, okay? I didn't believe that ever until I was at university, sitting in a university chemistry class, and the professor was like, everything's energy. I was like, okay, everything must be energy then, because this is like a great uni. And we talked about vibrations, frequencies, etc. But everything literally is energy, okay? I'm energy right now. You know that because you can see me moving. But there's also a lot of other things to the human eye that you do not see are moving because we don't have that perception. But they are still vibrating. They are just vibrating in a very different manner. Because we're humans, we're not objects, we're not animals, we're not certain creatures, we are humans, and that's totally fine. But what we have to understand here is that fear is a very low energy frequency, okay? You put out low energy, you are going to get back low energy. You put out fear, you are going to get back more fear, okay? Positive alignment take that we could take on this is to manifest success, okay? Athletes, they seriously need to align their thoughts and emotions with a genuine sense of self-worth, a genuine sense of self-esteem, which I talked about in another video. I can tag that at the end of this video if you want to go watch it. It's all about stage fright and anxiety and finding and cultivating a genuine sense of self-esteem, and also having very positive expectations, okay? Not the expectations that you're going to fail. So the impact of fear of failure on professional athletes, how does this actually impact you? Well, it definitely impacts your performance anxiety, how much anxiety you feel to perform, and how much anxiety you feel when you're performing. I had that a lot, all the time, okay? It never went away. It never went away until I stopped being an athlete, literally. Because a lot of this, some things I was aware of, and some things I really wasn't aware of because I wasn't aware of the inner child. I was aware of the law of attraction, yet a lot of the times it wouldn't work. Why? Because I was unaware completely of my inner child wounds, what they were and what beliefs were coming from them, okay? Imposter syndrome, as I said before, I experienced that one a lot. Imposter syndrome is when your child wounds, they make you feel like a fraud, okay? It's like you don't deserve success. Instead, you just deserve to sabotage yourself. You step onto the stage, you don't actually deserve to win the competition. You don't deserve the audience to clap. It's like that inner critic, which is actually coming from an inner child wound, okay? And again, these inner child wounds aren't necessarily associated from a mum and dad. They can be, but also they can just be from the environment. And have you ever thought about you as a child athlete? Coaches. A lot of coaches can instill these things as well. Not all, okay? I'm not putting a bad word on coaches, but some can. Stunted growth as well, okay? So without confronting the fear, athletes limit their potential to improve, okay? You literally limit your own potential, most likely unawareingly, and you limit your ability to take the risk. That would, in turn, a lot of risks can actually lead to greater success, okay? I took the risk to move out of the Australian Ballet School after 3 years there. And I could have finished if I wanted to. The Australian Ballet School goes up to level 8. I could have, okay? I got into the next level and everything. I took the risk to go to this specialized ballet school, but it was very much so smaller. Definitely didn't have the facilities that the Australian Ballet School had. I didn't really understood how it worked there. Literally a huge risk, okay? You go from the Australian Ballet School to a training facility. I was like, oh. I took that risk, and then I ended up at the best ballet school, not in Australia, the best ballet school in the world, okay? So that's a good example. Emotional and physical impact as well. So stress and anxiety can manifest as physical tension, as injury. This is something I'm still working on within myself at the moment as an ex-professional athlete. I have this chronic pain in my ankle. At times it's better. I definitely have noticed a bit of improvement over the past 3 months at the time of watching this video. But, you know, I do live in pain chronically, and I do believe that a lot of pain can be stored in the body. Also stress. Stress causes your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, to go up. I don't want to do a biology class right now, but there's also the scientific understanding of how stress and how anxiety can manifest into a physical condition. It could even just lead to a silly injury. You were so anxious that you weren't thinking and then you tripped and sprained your ankle, okay? Even something basic like that. I've seen that happen quite a lot. Now, onto what you came here for really, which is how to overcome this fear of failure as a professional athlete. It starts with the awareness, and I like to call it the light of awareness, okay? Where you create awareness, once you create the awareness of, okay, what are my failures? And you reflect back on childhood experiences, it becomes so much easier to recognize other failures that you have, or the fears of failures that you have, sorry, that are not just conscious, but subconscious. And speaking of subconscious, meditation can be a very, very valuable tool. The more you do it, the better you get at it. I will admit, for the first 1.5 years of my life meditating, I could not sit down for 5 minutes and just listen to my breath. I could not do that. Which is why the meditations I put out on YouTube, they're all guided, like they literally tell you what to think about and what to feel, so you're not just there sitting like, because at first, when I first started meditating, that just drove me nuts. I didn't really notice any benefit from it. But with the way I believe I guide meditations and some of the guided meditations I discovered later in life, you know, I found that very helpful. That of which, if you know you're watching this video and it's been a couple of months, there might even be a meditation video on overcoming the fear of failure potentially. So you're welcome to check out the meditations playlist on the YouTube channel as well if you're curious. Another one is to learn to reparent yourself, okay? Be your own parent to your child's self, okay? Speak to your inner child in the way that you wish you were spoken to. Be compassionate to that inner child in the way that they wanted that compassion. Be loving towards that child in the way that maybe they didn't get the love. Be the parent to your younger self, and you will notice, you know, how maybe potentially love was conditional, okay? You got the love if you did something, and if you didn't do it well, then you didn't get the love. Or the praise in young athletes. Okay, if you did well, you got a trophy and there was praise. But if you did a bad job, there wasn't a trophy, you didn't get praise, and maybe like mum or dad got really angry, for example. Even that can stimulate the fear of failure in an athlete. That's just an example. Journaling can also be a really good way for some people to just start writing. Like I would literally recommend you just start writing. I'm struggling with my performance, I'm struggling with whatever it is, and you will literally just write down, and you know, you'd be surprised what you become aware of when you start writing stuff down. For some people, they're not into that, and that's fine. But journaling can be a very valuable tool. 2 last things I'd recommend you do are to change those limiting beliefs, okay? So if you have a belief that I always fail when I get on stage, I always fail when I get on stage, instead of just telling yourself, I don't fail when I get on stage, I don't fail when I get on stage, shift that belief into something positive. Don't try and erase the belief, instead try and shift it, okay? I always fail when I get on stage. You can literally shift that into, when I step on stage, I perform at my best, because I feel so excited to be there. I feel so comfortable in that environment, and I love performing, right? You can shift the belief into an entire different frame, which goes from being a limiting belief to a supporting belief. And also, just to finish off here, let's all recognize that failing is not failing, all right? It's literally just lessons and teachings. As an athlete, you're never gonna be perfect, ever, okay? And the other thing to think about is like, well, how do you even know something's perfect? Even if you won, like how do you really know that you really did your best? You know? So there really is no such thing as failing. They are all lessons and teachings. Anything that you failed at in the past was something you could have learnt from, okay? And if you didn't learn from it, maybe you can reflect on that as a bit of like homework or a task if you want to take this a little bit further. But that's it for today's video, guys. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, I definitely recommend you do, especially if you're looking to unlock more potential as an athlete and overcome any sort of mental blocks that you know, find yourself coming into either awareingly or unawareingly. And if you did like this video, I would appreciate a like so I know that you liked it, and I definitely can create more videos like this. And of course, you know, feel welcome to share this video to any other athletes that you think would benefit from it. I am an ex-professional athlete, but I was an athlete myself, okay? So it brings me so much passion to create these videos, and it's so meaningful to me because in all honesty, it was really hard for me to lose that profession. And I also talk about, you know, that world as an ex-professional athlete. Chances are you're not an ex-athlete watching this right now, so I don't need to talk about that. But, you know, I went through a lot to be able to stand here and share so much guidance and knowledge to help athletes now. It took so much strength, but in doing so, you know, some of the hardest things you do end up being the biggest blessings and the biggest successes that you create in your own life. So that's another way you can take failure. You know, some of the hardest failures you've learned are also later, upon reflection, something like one of the best things that could have happened to you, right? Because without that lesson and without that teaching, how would you be where you are now? That's it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.